Whenever a problem comes up, it's often the people who use their brains and think creatively who come up with ideas that change the world. And today we're talking about one of those ideas. The ice cream cone. Yep, the ice cream cone. Today you can find it almost everywhere in the world. But about 120 years ago, this simple cone was born out of a surprising problem. An ice cream seller ran out of paper cups, causing quite a bit of chaos. What happened next led to one of the most brilliant food inventions of all time. So, come along with me as we travel back 120 years and discover the fascinating story behind the ice cream cone. Back in the 1800s, ice cream was considered a luxury food for wealthy people. It was usually served in glass cups. After finishing the ice cream, the cup had to be washed and reused. Because of that, ice cream wasn't really a street food. You couldn't simply eat it while walking down the road. It just wasn't convenient. But by the early 1900s, things started to change. Ice cream became much cheaper and more widely available. The invention of refrigeration made it easier to produce, store, and sell ice cream. As prices dropped, more and more people began enjoying it. However, there was one big problem. There weren't enough cups. On April 30th, 1904, in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, in the United States, an event called the Louisiana Purchase Exposition officially began. This wasn't just an ordinary fair. It was a massive world's fair that brought people, ideas, inventions, and cultures from all over the world together in one place. The event got its name from the Louisiana Purchase, a historic land deal that took place about 100 years earlier. In 1803, the United States purchased a huge territory from France for $15 million. The World's Fair was organized to celebrate the 100th anniversary of that remarkable purchase. And no one knew that this celebration would soon become part of the story behind one of the world's most famous desserts. For 6 months, more than 100,000 people visited the fair every single day. Now remember, this was 1904. There was no air conditioning and modern refrigerators weren't common. Most people relied on simple ice boxes to keep things cold. It was the middle of summer with temperatures often rising above 35 degrees Celsius. Everyone was looking for something cold and refreshing. And do you know what the hottest trend was at the time? Ice cream. People couldn't get enough of it. With thousands of visitors walking around in the summer heat, ice cream quickly became one of the most popular treats at the fair. Right in the middle of the fair, along what was known as Street Number 12, there were 2 stalls standing side by side. On the left was Charles Menches, an ice cream vendor from Ohio. His stall was packed. The line stretched out into the street as people waited to buy ice cream. He worked non-stop. Scoop the ice cream, put it into a paper cup, take the money, and hand it over. Over and over again. He was like a machine. Then, right next door on the other side, was Arnold Fornacho, a young Syrian-American vendor. His stall sold something called zalabia. It was a thin, crispy pastry, something between a waffle and a pancake. People would sprinkle it with sugar, roll it up, and eat it as a sweet snack. And just like the ice cream stall, his business was booming, too. By around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Charles's stall looked like a battlefield. Scoop, serve, scoop, serve. The line just kept growing, and people were buying ice cream as fast as he could serve it. But then Charles ran into his biggest problem of the day. His assistant came running over and shouted, "Boss, we're out of cups!" Charles quickly turned around and looked at the box of paper cups. Empty. Not a single one left. And the worst part? There were still plenty of customers waiting in line. Some of them were already getting impatient. "We've been standing here for an hour," people shouted from the crowd. Charles started to panic. Sweat was pouring down his face. He looked at the empty box, then at the long line of customers, and thought to himself, "What are we going to do now?" As Charles stood there in a panic, something suddenly caught his attention. At that exact moment, he saw Arnold pulling a fresh hot waffle straight off the iron. And that's when Charles's mind started racing. Hold on! What if that waffle was rolled into a cone shape? You could put ice cream inside it just like a cup, but unlike a paper cup, you could eat it too. The more he thought about it, the more it made sense. Charles quickly turned to Arnold and said, "Can you roll one of those waffles for me?" Arnold took a hot waffle and carefully rolled it into a cone shape while it was still soft. Then he handed it to Charles. Charles immediately scooped some ice cream into the rolled waffle cone and gave it to the very first customer waiting in line. The customer took it, looked at it for a moment, and took a bite. And then, what happened next would change the future of ice cream forever. So, what happened next? The customer finished the ice cream and then looked at the cone for a moment. A few seconds later, he said, "Wait, you can eat the cup too?" And just like that, people loved it. The idea spread through the fair almost overnight. You can eat the cup! There was no need to wash anything afterward. People could carry it around while walking, and for kids, it felt almost like a fun toy they could eat. From that point on, Arnold and Charles kept making and selling waffle cones filled with ice cream day after day. The combination was a huge hit. By the time the fair ended, they weren't millionaires. But something much bigger had happened. Their idea had escaped the fairgrounds and started spreading across the world. And before long, the ice cream cone became one of the most recognizable food inventions on the planet. After 1904, ice cream cones started appearing everywhere. More and more vendors copied the idea, and the cone quickly spread around the world. In 1912, Frederick Bruckmann invented a machine that could make cones much faster. Today, there are over 1,000 different cone varieties and flavors worldwide, and it all started because one vendor ran out of paper cups. People say that sometimes good things come from unexpected problems. This story proves it. Now, some people claim that Italo Marchionni created an ice cream cone in 1903, but there isn't enough proof to support that claim. That's why most people still accept the famous St. Louis story as the origin of the ice cream cone. So, in simple terms, when a problem shows up, using your brain and thinking creatively can sometimes change the world. If Charles hadn't run out of cups that day, who knows? We might still be eating ice cream from glass cups and washing them afterward. If you know any interesting stories like this one, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day.